So in part 1, we managed to cut a whole bunch of metal, including the frame rail as well as the radiator support, and we cut out all the bad rust repairs that were here before, and today we're going to start working on fixing some of those issues. So welcome back, Drifters. Today what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be treating the inside of the frame rails on the 67 Mustang. Now, what I'm going to be doing is basically using this product called POR 15. Just means pour over rust. We're not actually going to pour it over rust. We're going to treat it. I've got this little metal etching compound that we're going to use to kind of get everything set, but it's also hard to reach, so I'm going to show you how we get in there and reach it. So if you look inside there, you can see that there's a lot of junk, and overall it's not too terrible. There's a little bit of surface rust in there, which is to be expected, but we're going to treat all that. There's a little bracket on that one side way down there where that little hole is, but we have access to it from the other side. Let me show you. So luckily, since I have this cut out, I have access into where that hole is. You can see it right there. So I should be able to reach this entire area inside here and treat it. So if you look inside there on the other side, it's very deep and it's a lot further down before we get to where that piece is. So I'm gonna have to come up with a plan to actually be able to reach that far in, because you see how much more metal we have to actually go through. So here's the very simple plan that I came up with that's gonna work. And no, not the band, I love those guys, but we're gonna be using one of these, okay? Just a little wire brush made out of wood. Now this is obviously not long enough, so you know how we fix that problem? Well, it's really simple. We take another piece of wood and we attach it to it. Yes, that simply. I'm just going to put 2 screws in this, and we're going to have ourselves a little extendo scraper. So, yeah, let's do it. There we go. Just got to get rid of these little guys. And that is our custom tool. Cool deal. Okay, so now that we got our extendo scrubber tool all situated, now what we got to do is figure out how we're going to get it in there and what we're going to clean it with. So let me show you one of the things that I need to do for the driver's side frame rail, and then I'll show you what kind of chemicals we're going to use to treat this thing. Okay, so for the driver's side, we got this nifty little piece of junk right in the way, but I need to know the positions, this way we put it in the exact same spot, and what I did is I just measured from here to here, and I just marked it saying that it's 2 inches to that point. So if I take a tape measure here, I go to here, so I know when I go to bend this back that it's going to be in the same spot. But other than that, we just need the clearance so we can actually get in there. Well, I think we got plenty of space to work with now. So now as for the chemicals, POR actually makes a degreaser. Now, I don't know if you really need to use their brand. I think you could probably use like the Purple Power or any other kind of degreaser you got. I'm just going to use theirs just because it came in the kit that I got. But after we get that done, then we're going to go ahead and do the metal prep. Now this thing is going to be the thing that's basically going to etch it and make sure that it cures any rust that's in there. It basically just gives us something to bond to, so that way we're not peeling up or allowing there to be water in between. Now the thing is, this stuff has to dry completely before we actually apply the POR. So this may be a 2-day thing for me. So again, if this video takes forever, you know why. Okay, so when it comes to the degreaser, it's supposed to be 4 parts water to 1 part degreaser, and it's supposed to be hot water for some reason, so I just use some water from inside. But these bottles are kind of nice because they have the little lines on them, so you can figure out, you know, exactly what part you need. I think they're like $3 at Lowe's. I might even be able to put a link for Amazon in there, but yeah, pretty sweet. So I'm just gonna try to pour this stuff. I probably should be wearing gloves, but I don't know. We'll see. All right, so I'm probably gonna spill this everywhere, but let's just see if we can do this. Yeah, there she goes. Oh, it's on my hands. Alright, I put a little bit extra because I'd rather be a little bit more concentrated. This thing's real dirty. It feels kind of like soap, honestly. It's not at all what I was expecting. Just gonna give that a little shake. Oh yeah, it's nice and foamy. Alright, cool. So I guess now we got some degreaser. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spray this thing inside there and then go over it with the wire brush real hard. And we'll just try to get it cleaned out. Now, once I'm done cleaning, I'm supposed to rinse it out with water before we do the metal prep. So that's what we're gonna do. So now I know this could be a little bit above and beyond, but hey, you know what? We're just trying to cover all the bases so that we don't have to do this again because it's a lot of work. All right, so now all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna squirt this real deep in there and try to get it real nice and clean. I'm gonna take my brush and then go back over it and do it on the driver's side as well. So yeah, time for me to do a bunch of scrubbing and cleaning. Let's do it. Okay, so I did the first round of degreasing, scrubbing, and rinsing. I had to rinse it all out with regular water. I just filled a squirt bottle up with regular water. But wait till you see the mess it makes. It's still draining all this stuff out. I mean, at least we know that these drains are working because as you come around here, you'll see that it is filtering all the way down here. So this means that these are actually at the correct angle because they're meant to be slightly back so that way when it drains, it can drain back. So luckily it's doing that on both sides. It means we actually did the frame rails right. Frame rails? I meant frame rails. My speech is off today, but that's okay. So I'm going to let this completely dry, and then we're going to go ahead and put the etch in there. And we'll let the etch go through, and then we got to let that dry. And we'll probably have to wait overnight until it's completely dry to put on the POR. So, fun times. Okay, so I got the floor completely covered in this plastic sheeting because we're basically going to be using what's called phosphoric acid. And it's going to basically etch the metal and stuff, but it is very hazardous, so you got to be very careful. I'm wearing double gloves, and I'm about to put on a respirator because this stuff is fumey, and, you know, the garage is open. It's a little bit late, but I got to get this thing etched. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour it into the spray bottle. I'm going to try to spray as much inside the frame rail as I possibly can, and then I'm just going to go scrubbing. Once I get it coated all the way, we're going to let it sit for about 20 minutes, and then we're going to come back and rinse it out with just plain water until we get just pure water running off. And then, you know, we have to let this thing dry overnight so that way we can do the other part. So, yeah, let's do it. Okay, so this part's probably going to suck a little bit, but I'm going to just try to get as much of this in here as I can and try to get this done as fast as I can because I don't know how rough this is going to be, but it's probably going to suck. Time to try to pour this on without spilling too much. Surprisingly, I filled it all the way up without spilling a drop. Weird. Alright, here we go. I gotta be real careful not to get this stuff in my eyes. I'm wearing glasses, but probably want to use something a little better if you have it. You can see how it kind of splashes. Alright, we'll let that sit. Now I'm gonna do this side. Now we let that sit for about 20 minutes. Okay, so I've had this thing sitting for about 40 minutes. I went a little bit longer because I just wanted to make sure that I had enough time to go in there and etch everything. So now I'm just going to take some plain water and we're just going to rinse this thing out very carefully, make sure we get all the acid neutralized, and then we're going to blow it out with air after I give it a chance to dry a bit, so that way I don't splash it up into my face, because that would be very bad. But yeah, so we should be good, and then I'm going to let this thing dry overnight. So let's do it. Alright, so that's nice and clean. I'm going to let this thing dry off before we go airing it out because I don't want to splash this water back in my face. And then tomorrow we should look at actually coating the inside of these things. So, making progress. So here's the inside of the frame rail. It's going to be a little bit trippy the way this thing looks. But you can see that it is pretty dang clean for the most part. So here's the other side. Not too bad. What's really neat is you can see here we're accidentally oversprayed and it actually treated some of the rust that was just hanging out here. You'll see deep inside there that it got treated all the way up, and I cleared the whole thing out of rust and everything else, so it's nice and clean, and I sanded this whole thing down to get it ready to go, so we should be good. Okay, so now here comes the tricky part, and that is how are we going to get the paint inside there? We obviously can't use our scrub brush, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to repurpose an old tool, this tram bar I made a little while ago. I'm going to take this skinny pole and I'm going to use this type of stuff that, well, if you're a vegan, you might want to turn away, but basically it's lambskin. So this lambskin cloth is really good for applying this stuff. A lot of people use this for like staining or like if you're dyeing leather and stuff like that. But what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to cut this little thing up and I'm going to wrap it around the metal bar with zip ties just to hold it in place. And then we're going to use this to actually apply it deep inside there because I'll be able to manipulate this stick and it's not going to bend on me. Because the wood stick that I have was a little bit flexible and I was having a little bit of issue with that. But I'm sure if you got a thick enough piece of wood, it would work just fine. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to cut a section of this, tie it together, and we should be good. Alright, so I've got it on there. All I did was use a zip tie and cut this piece around it. So it's basically just a small little piece. I wrapped it around like that and then zip tied it like that, super tight. Super easy to do. Zip tie is not going anywhere, and it's not like it's under a lot of stress, so I can't even pull this thing off like this. So it should be fine. These things do have a little bit of fibers and stuff that seem to come loose, but I'm not too worried if I get a couple pieces of hair in this stuff. You know what I mean? It should be perfectly fine. No one's going to see this paint anyway. So now what I need to do is I'm going to mix up the POR, I'm gonna put it in a container. I'm gonna pour about half of it because we're gonna need to do a total of 2 coats, and I sure as hell hope this one little pint or quart, whatever I have, is gonna be enough, because if not, I'm gonna be in trouble. So, wish me luck. Okay, so I know this might be a little overkill, but I needed something to cover me because this stuff, if it gets on you, it does not come off very easy. I'm wearing gloves and everything. Probably should wear a respirator because this stuff is strong, but I'm gonna mix it up and just go to work. I'm gonna try to get this done as quick as I can, but whew, this is gonna be interesting. Wish me luck. I ripped my pants already. Too big for these things. Probably not good to use wood, but whatever. Oh my God, that smells so strong. This thing's actually working pretty well. Alright, that's a good first coat. A couple little drips here and there. Oh fuck, my glasses. This is not fun. There it goes. Alright, cool. That solves that problem. Okay, one big thing. I cleaned the lid all the way off so there's no residue in there, because if it wasn't, I wouldn't be able to get this lid back off. So, because this stuff is like cement when it gets hard. So it's a really crazy chemical. But I got it. We're gonna seal this thing up for now until we come back to it a little bit later. It should be about 2 to 6 hours, and then we should be able to come back out here and start working on the second coat. So let's do it. Okay, so it's been a couple of hours. As you can tell, it's definitely later than what it was before. It took me about 3 hours so far, and I think it's finally ready. We're supposed to basically just rub our finger across it. It should be tacky, but not actually like lift. So let me show you. So when I go in here, I'm gonna like rub on it, and then there shouldn't be anything up there. So we should be good for a second coat. So I guess let's get the second one on there, and then we just gotta let this baby cure. So you might be wondering why I'm wearing hearing protection. It's not for my ears, it's for my glasses. These things kept falling off of me the whole time I was doing this last time. Hopefully this time that won't happen. But yeah, I'm just gonna lay this second coat on here. We should be good to go. And then we might actually be able to finish this dang frame that's been taking me weeks. This project's taking way longer than I thought. But let's do it. So luckily, since I happened to cover this last time, I can actually take the lid off. No problems. So yeah, wiping that thing down is a huge difference. Ooh, that is stinky. Do not smell that. Oh, God. All right, here we go. Moment of truth. I have a feeling a lot of these bolts are going to have to get tapped again. Because this stuff is deep. Real deep. Boom. There she goes. Alright, cool. Thank God I wore gloves, because this would be a nightmare otherwise. Okay, so I made a total and complete mess, but so far so good. We're going to let this thing cure and dry overnight, and then we'll come back in here and start finishing up this frame rail. So, yeah, I call that a win. Okay, so here's the inside of this thing. You can see that it's looking pretty good. There are a couple fibers you can see there from the wool blanket thing that I used, the little sheepskin, but for the most part, it's pretty clean. So if we look inside here, you can see that we got a pretty good coating so far, nothing really crazy, and it looks pretty good. We got it all nice and coated inside the frame rails as well, all the way down to here, so we should be pretty good. So the one big thing that I noticed is that the lambskin did leave a little bit of fiber inside there, but I figured it was going to do that from the beginning. I'm not really concerned with it because it's nice and solid. It got really good coverage inside there, and yeah, it looks great. And I think this is going to help a lot when it comes to preventing rust in the future. But you can definitely see why it's important to have this drop cloth. I mean, this stuff got dripping everywhere. I think I still managed to get some on my floor, but for the most part, we saved most of it. So yeah, and this stuff is solid. It is like a rock. I mean, it does not, like, look, this thing is stuck on there. It is hard. It's not soft at all. So be very careful if you get this stuff on anything, because it will not come off. I mean, it even says on the box that if you get it on your skin, the only way it comes off is through time and the natural oil of your skin. So, yeah, that's why I wore that suit and had all the gloves and everything. So, yeah, it's very, very toxic stuff. So if you are one of the few people that made it this far into the video, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, because you're one of the few people that can actually stand listening to my bullshit for 15 minutes, okay? And that says something. I don't know if it's a good thing, but it says something.
much for your half hour.
I know. Sorry. You know how it goes if you.
I know exactly how it goes. I know exactly how it goes.